Hi, it's Amanda, the Nail Polish Hound. Welcome to my February update for my Pan That palette. This year I'm doing 3 palettes, which is a little bit ambitious, but I'm going to give it my best. And the first one is under the theme of fun-sized, and I am panning this Boots 17 Easy on the Eye palette. And the shades are under the title A Big Smoke. And I'm only going to be showing you the ones that I have used in the last month. This is February's update, a little bit late putting it up, but I did film it at the right time. So the first one I used was Cocoa Brown. I used this 15 times in January. And in February I used it a further 4 times, so 19 times in total so far this year. The next one is Onyx Black. This is what it looked like at the introduction. And then in January I used it 7 times. And in February a further 13 times, making 20 uses in total. And I reckon I can't be far off pan on this one, but just not quite made it yet. Then we have Cloudy Lilac. I didn't use it at all in January, but in February I used this one 8 times, and this one's going down quite quickly, as you can see, and I hope that I will reach pan on this one fairly soon. It's quite a powdery shadow, this one. And the next one is Warm Ivory. I did use this one in January, I had 8 uses. And in February another 8 uses, making 16 in total. Not quite such a deep pan on this one because I'm using a bigger applicator, but it is a wider pan, so hopefully this one will continue to go quite quickly. And the next one is a Pink Flush, and this is what it looked like at the intro. And in January I used it 14 times, and you can see I was starting to get quite a decent dip on this one. And in February I used it another 14 times, making 28 uses in total, and I hit that pan at 20 uses. So I'm confident I think I'm going to be able to use this one up over the course of the year. So this is the palette overall and the progress that I've made so far. And the next palette that I've got in this project is Better Together, which is a palette that complements your baby pan that palette. And for this one I have got this Milani palette, which is called Must Have Neutrals. The first shade in it is called Base. This is what it looked like at the introduction. I did have part of that come away out of the palette, and did use as much of it up as I could, apart from the bits that fell on the floor. So this is what it looked like after 6 uses in January. And then in February I used it another 3 times, making 9 uses in total this year. This palette's a bit more difficult to see the actual changes in the pan, so I've done some still photographs for you as well. So no real obvious difference in this one so far. The next one that I have used is called Crease, and this is what it looked like at the introduction. In January I used it 12 times, and I'm using it in my eyebrows, so I'm using a very narrow flat brush and going quite deep with that. Another 12 uses in February, making 24 in total this year, and I actually reached pan at 13 uses on this shadow, but it did have some use before I started. And the last one that I had used in February from this palette is the one called Liner. And this one's really difficult to see progress on. I used it 10 times in January, and you can start to see a bit of a dip forming. I used it another 10 times in February, but it doesn't seem to have made a great deal of difference. 20 uses so far this year on this one. But it's very pigmented, so I don't need much at all on the brush. I just lightly dab it into the pan. And here are those close-up pictures for this one to try and see it a little bit more clearly. And here's the progress that I've made on the entire palette so far this year. And last but not least, I'm doing my best to try and finish up a little bit more of my Pan That palette from last year. And the first one that I used in February is the Love Letter, and this is what it looked like when I brought it into the project this year. I used it 6 times in January, making 109 uses at that point. And in February I used it another 13 times, making 19 uses so far this year and 122 in total. And you can see that there's a definite visible difference in this one compared to what it looked like in January. And I'm hoping to try and clear out the bottom left hand corner during March. The next one that I used in February is Venetian Red. This is what it looked like at the start of this year. At the end of January I had used it 11 times with a tiny bit of visible difference compared to before. This one does go very, very slowly though. I used it another 3 times in February, 14 uses this year and 153 uses in total so far. I don't think I'm going to finish this one off this year, I have to be honest. It goes down so slowly. And the other one that I've been using from this palette is a Warm Taupe. This is what it looked like at the intro. I used it 11 times in January, making 108 uses in total, with last year's and this year's usage included. And another 13 uses in February, making 24 in total this year and 121 in total over the course of last year and this year. And I think there's perhaps a teeny tiny bit of expansion, but it is really hard to see. Moving slowly but getting very flat across the entirety of this pan. So this is the progress that I've made in this palette during this year. If you want to know how it went last year, I'll put a link to those videos at the end of this one. And if you've enjoyed this, I hope I will see you in another of my videos, and maybe you'd like and subscribe as well. Bye!